So I started getting harassed around the time of the royal wedding. The moment that people knew I disagreed with some things about my sisters.
I grew up as an only child, and I wished I had siblings.
It's like everything. It's lie upon lie upon lie.
Hello to all my gorgeous, good-looking friends. You are tuning into TRG's series covering the Markle versus Markle defamation lawsuit. If you are new to the channel, welcome. For those who are returning, thank you for coming back and supporting my work. I'm always grateful to have this like-minded community to discuss the beloved royal family and the cultural impact of its members on society, particularly in America. Okay, before I get into this, let me just put the disclaimer. I am not a legal expert. I am simply just reading what's in the public court files and giving my interpretation and observations/opinions. Please do your own research and come to your own conclusion. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. By now, you should have heard the news either by hearing it first from me this morning or throughout the day, the news media catching on fire as Meghan no doubt has her PR machine blasting this out and milking every second of it. Yes, this case was dismissed. However, from my understanding, just looking online and hearing what others are saying, it does appear that Samantha may be appealing this case. Although I do not have that confirmation, it does appear that she's not giving up, which is a good thing because I don't think she should be giving up. Now, as promised, I have been going through this document and trying to really understand the judge's decision and respecting how she came to that decision. But I'm having a really hard time because from what I gather and just conflicting reports from the oral argument, I mean, it was reported that there was a sentiment of, yeah, we felt that the judge got it, but now it feels like it's been a complete 180. So I'm trying to figure out what actually went sideways and, where the laws have been applied. In some cases, I'm not necessarily sure I agree. And there's a lot of research that goes into that based off of trying to understand some of this lingo and getting to a place of seeing how the judge would make the argument to dismiss it. So bear with me, folks. This is a lot more in depth that I didn't anticipate, so I will not be going through this. However, what I do want to point out, and this is something that really had been sitting on my mind since Lady C had said it. So Lady C, I think it was one of her earlier videos like last week, I don't know if it was Saturdays or Thursdays, but she did bring up Samantha Markle's case and said that, she thinks that the case should move forward, but is suspicious as to why it has been taking so much time for her to make a decision because, they have been moving forward with discovery and they were approaching the date for mediation. It just seemed odd. And I remember that because I also have been saying the same thing. I said, well, if this was a done deal, then why hasn't the motion to dismiss been tossed? And we continue to move forward since all these other dates have been set out and we're getting near them. And I agree that the length of time that this was taking since the oral argument was back in November of 2023 felt a little suspicious. As I was reading this case, it did feel very much that she was backing into supporting a dismissal. It wasn't so much that she felt that it was really dismissal. It just was, okay, the end state is dismissal. Now, how am I going to get there? And I feel like this is why it took so much time, because there was a lot of effort put into covering herself in the justification for this dismissal. I don't necessarily agree with everything that she has referenced, and this is why it's taking me now some time to go through it and pull it apart. But it does feel very much like that, and that's just my opinion. Another thing that jumped out at me as I was reading through it is that in some cases, it felt like the judge wasn't reading the complaint in the way that it should be in accordance with the laws that were being referenced, or at least it didn't appear to me in some cases. And, I need to do a little bit more work on that in order to understand the place that she is coming from, which is why I find this a little bit more challenging than I thought originally. Now, do I think from reading this document that this judge was biased or was doing anything wrong or trying to manipulate the audience? No, I don't think so. I think she played by the book, but I do feel that she knew what the end state was going to be based off of external factors, in my humble opinion. So, what I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about this judge. Now, I'm not saying that there was any funny business going on, but living in this world today and seeing what the judicial system is doing under the Biden administration and the Democrats, I wouldn't be surprised. And here are some of the things that I want to raise to the audience for you to think about and for you to chew on and maybe come to your own conclusion. So, Judge Honeywell was appointed by Democratic President Barack Obama in 2009. And what I find so interesting is that right after, maybe less than a month after Samantha's oral hearing, she quietly assumed senior status. Now, does anybody understand what senior status is? Probably not. I didn't until now, and it makes complete sense as to what is going on here. So, senior status is a type of semi-retirement for federal judges. They become eligible when they reach a certain age and number of years on the bench. Now, a judge who takes senior status has a reduced caseload, but they still get their full salary. When a judge takes senior status, it creates a vacancy on the court the same as if they had completely retired. So why is this important? Well, it is an election year, and the Democrats are doing everything they possibly can to maintain power wherever they can. The court system is no different. So in theory, a judge who respects the law and who values our rights and freedoms likely doesn't want to be replaced by someone who has a completely opposed view of the law than they do. So, as I understand it, the Democrats control the White House and the Senate for now, but that could all change in November should Trump get elected. So, with that being said, if a judge takes senior status like what Charlene has done, a replacement will be nominated by President Biden, and their confirmation will be up to currently a Democratic Senate. And that's what we have in place now. And the reason why this is political is because the more judges that are now taking senior status, the more then Biden can nominate these judges to secure democratic principles in the judicial system for decades to come. So you see how dangerous all of this is. And is it possible maybe someone tapped Charlene on the shoulder right after Samantha's oral argument to say, you know what? What if we give you this really awesome retire package and you take this at the end of this year so Biden can now go in and replace your seat with someone who is like-minded just like you, and we preserve the Democratic Party's power within the country on the judicial side? Is that possible? It could be. Could she just be saying, you know what, I'm tired, I just want to retire? Yeah, that too. But do I think that's likely? No, I think there is some sort of tactic or strategy going on here politically. If it's tied to Meghan Markle, I'm not sure. I just find that it's so suspicious that the reading from the press was that, oh, the judge was so surprised to see and like connecting the dots and shaking her head in agreement to all of a sudden now doing a 180 and dismissing everything in its entirety. It just makes you think, especially when you read what happened to Samantha and her being disabled, and then you go back to Charlene Honeywell's original testimony before the Senate in her nomination. Doesn't seem like they match, in my humble opinion. This is what Charlene had said back in 2009. In the sworn testimony, the question was asked, President Obama has described the types of judges that he will nominate to the federal bench as follows. We need somebody who's got the heart, the empathy to recognize what it's like to be a young teenage mom, the empathy to understand what it's like to be poor or African American or gay or disabled or old. And that's the criteria by which I'm going to be selecting my judges. Do you believe that you fit the president's criteria for federal judges as described in his quote? Charlene's response, To the extent that I am an African American woman, I fit one of President Obama's criteria for federal judges. The second part of this question is, what role do you believe that empathy should play in a judge's consideration of a case? Her response is, empathy does not play a role in my consideration of cases. Presently, I decide cases by applying the law to the facts of the cases pending before me. If confirmed by the Senate to serve as a district court judge, I will decide cases in the same manner. Even though Charlene said all the right things in the second half of this question, you cannot ignore the fact that the choices that President Barack Obama made with these nominees were rooted with identity politics. As you can see here, it reads like, do you have empathy if you understand what it's like to be poor, African American, or gay, disabled, or old? Well, what about Latinos? What about Asians? Obviously, she's going to check off the I'm a African American woman, to fulfill President Obama's requirement in order to show that you have empathy. So what does that mean? Does it mean that she had empathy for Meghan Markle over Samantha? I mean, Samantha's disabled, but Charlene doesn't understand empathy for that, according to the statement, but she understands empathy for Meghan because she is a Black woman and can relate. Do you see how this gets very muddy and could be seen as maybe her taking the side and not going against the Black people because of her, not being, I want to say, taken down by these Sussex squad sugars and the liberal left? That also, too, is a possibility as to why this went in the direction that it did. I'm just speculating. I don't have any evidence, but the way things have been going in this country is indicative of how this turned out today. Just my observation. What is clear is that Charlene is on board with this leftist agenda and is aligned with Biden's destruction of this country with its immigration laws and keeping the border wide open. I'm sure if we look deep enough, we would find George Soros money somewhere. I'm going to call on Daily Empress to see if she could check this out because she's really good at finding this kind of stuff. I don't think it's over, but what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe and I will talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.